Greetings, back again. This is my new favorite pen, and this is going to be a bit of an unveiling. We're not going to be looking at that pen today. We're going to be looking at this pen. After I bought this pen, I told myself, proverbially, that I was not going to buy any more pens in 2021. But then, of course, it was on sale. What could I do? I just had to instead go ahead and pull the trigger. So let's see what we've got inside of here. Now, this is always very boring, I know, and underwhelming. It always seems disappointing when people open these things up and they pull it out and ta-da, it's a pen. And today, that's what's going to happen yet again. Ta-da, it's a pen. So let me just throw this wrapping paper bobbly-boop. And it's a Pilot pen. It's a little different packaging than from my last ones. And I ordered this from a seller who ships from Japan. So the price was right, and I couldn't help myself because I've been thinking about going back to these pens which I have been using for so long. Plastic case. That's interesting. No branding on the box. There's interesting too. And let's just pop it open. There we go. And with a click and a snap, there it is. Pilot fountain pen. We know what all this stuff is. Authenticity book. Here we have a little ink cartridge, proprietary Pilot ink cartridge. Here's the branding on the inside of the plastic box. And kind of different for a Japanese company to put something in a box like this. I guess it's all right. It's not a bad little box. And inside here is kind of a generic bed, and this does not come out. And I don't know, just kind of hard, fuzzy on the inside. So it's kind of nice. I don't know. Actually, this would probably carry in a case really well. Again, this is the Pilot proprietary ink cartridge. And here is the weapon of choice right here. This is, it's in a sealed bag, so let's just slice that open. This is yet another Falcon pen. Now this one is a broad, soft broad as it says. And let's just take that off. We can pass that aside and we'll open up the pen and let's take a look. Okay, well there it is. Rhodium trimmed, gold nib, standard Falcon fare. Now you might wonder, it probably has a Con 40 converter in here. Yes, it does. And the standard amount of static electricity causing the ball to kind of float in midair. Ooh, exciting. But the Con 40 piston converter, I could pop this converter out and put in the cartridge, but I like these converters. And again, these are pens that I use for drawing primarily, so that I can keep my ink supply fresh. That's what I like to do with these. Now you might be wondering why I decided to pay somebody else to steal a catalytic converter and plate my pen and get a red Falcon. It's because I was thinking about going back to my Falcon pens. I have problems with my hand, as I've mentioned before, but I've been doing exercises and I like drawing with these Falcon pens. And so I have now 3 Falcons. And that would be as organized as the king who probably lost his firstborn to Rumpelstiltskin here. Let me stop knocking stuff over. And I have these 2 pens. Well, they're looking identical. One of them is a soft medium. The other one is a soft extra fine. Now, why do I have 2 exactly the same? Well, the reason why was because one of them was supposed to be in rhodium trim. But the dealer sent me the wrong one. And instead of me sending it back, he gave me a discount on something else, so I I took the advantage and bought some paper. And these haven't been used in a long time. You can see that there's condensation on that nib. That's how I know that this little inner cap in there really does a great job of keeping these pens, this is the soft medium, of keeping these pens moist when I'm not using them. Now I use carbon ink, platinum carbon ink for most of my drawing. And so these pens have been used primarily with that ink, and I've never suffered any issues. I did have to pop the feed out of one of these so that I could clean it up when it got a little gummy, but other than that, I've never had any trouble with gumminess in the feeds. So normally I would take this pen and clean it up, but I'm kind of curious as to whether I can just go ahead and load it. It looks, you take a loop and you make sure that there's nothing in the between the tines and run some warm water through it, not hot, and usually that's good enough to make sure that the pen is in good condition. Normally I take these off and stick it on the end, but I think I'll be able to tell which one's the broad. Yes. Who knows? Maybe I could even put this cap on the medium, and then I would be able to tell my three pens apart. But for the most part, it wasn't too difficult when I was drawing with them because I only had two of them, so I knew the one in my hand was the medium, let's say, and then the other one sitting on the desk would be the fine. But the reason why I decided to get the broad is because I've been drawing larger pieces, and I go to a boutique where I draw, and the pieces that I've been working on, they've been 11 by 14 sheets instead of smaller 8 by 10 or that size. And so I wanted to have something that I could make a larger line with that wasn't a music nib or one of the or a stub. I have a couple of stubs, but I wanted to just have a nice consistent line. I could use one of my Rotring isograph pens, but the isograph pens, they don't like the paper. I was using these cold press paper, which is a little more toothy and has more fibers in it, and those pens really don't like that paper. So let's ink these up and see what we can do. Now again, I use my carbon ink, my carbon black, and I don't know if you can see this, but you can see that the ink has moved off the edges of the glass and is pretty much on the bottom now, and there's not much ink left in this. And in fact, it's been problematic for me to fill the inkwell. So I am going to, let's make sure that there's no crusties coming off all over everywhere. I am going to use one of these. Now, if you've never seen one of these, this is a Pineider portable inkwell, and these work really well. Now, these inkwells are kind of curious. You pull this out. There's a rubber stopper inside. You put the pen in there. But what I don't understand is what's this little hole for? I've had to wonder, why is this hollow? Is that so I can pour ink into it and then use this as an inkwell as well? If I were to pour the ink into there, and then it's like a 2-for-1 inkwell, or maybe I put the ink in there and I can pour it into here, and I don't know. But if you've never seen one of these, the way they work is it's pretty simple. You've got this silicone rubber sleeve, and when you screw this down, it tightens this up and causes it to grab the side of the pen, and then it will create pressure on this ring, like a pressure fitting for water pipes and things like that, and or gas pipes, and you can get a tight seal around the grip section of your pen. Now, when I do this, you can see this is a new one. I have a number of these, but they had other ink in them, so I broke out one of my new ones. And see what happens is this presses in, this forces this to do its thing, and this will keep the ink from coming out when this is filled. But in order to get the ink from here into here, I don't want to pour it. So I'm going to use one of these pipettes. Now, I've heard a debate on how to pronounce the word. Is it a pipette or a pipette? I don't know. All I know is I've always called them pipettes, and these are some that I have left over from when I used to do maintenance. I used to work in a photo lab, and so I used to use these with a little bit of oil, and I could reach into parts of the machine so I wouldn't have to disassemble the machine. That always took too long and created issues for me to be able to make sure that we were up and running in the lab, in the photo lab. And oops, yeah, gotta be careful, gotta be careful. And we're just going to suck the ink up. And ooh, that's dangerous. Let's get that back down here. We'll use a little baggie that the pen came in, and we'll do this. Wow, I'm just in all kinds of jeopardy here. This is quite the terrifying moment here. Now, it doesn't take a lot of ink. Those Con 40 piston fillers, piston converters don't hold a lot of ink, but I think that I'm just going to get a little bit more ink out of here. Another thing about these is you can store the ink. You can store the ink in these, and it keeps just fine. I've never had any troubles with it. Like I said, I have a number of these. I actually have 4 of them, and the other 2 have blue inks in them. I have a platinum permanent blue that I also have in another bottle, and as well as some diatramentis when I go traveling and do things like that. Now, this bottle again, it's almost empty. Now with these, some people actually reuse them, and I never do. I just throw them away. They're inexpensive, and I think I'll throw this away too. So let's take a moment and get that done. So let's get this done, shall we? We're gonna pull this out, set that down, make sure it's flush all the way down. And you just take this collar and put it back on. You can just fill it with the with the top off. You can just go ahead and fill them right through there, but I don't like doing that. And again, the reason why I just take the whole top off is because when the ink gets on this silicone, it can be a little tough to get off, and you also end up with situations where the ink will get on the side of the pen, and as you can tell, a lot of my pens are black. So you take your pen, stick it in till it's seated down. This is a little too tight. Let's loosen that up. And stick it in until the pen feels like it's pretty tight. And we flip it upside down. Yikes! And we make sure that there's no ink. And we just keep on pumping it up and down until the bubbles are gone. And one more time should do it. We turn it over, loosen it up. Now, pulling this out can sometimes be tricky. So oftentimes I'll take the pen and I'll just screw it back on, and then I can pull it out, because I have actually loosened the converter and then ended up with an ink spill. So there's one. Let's clean that off. Sorry, we're losing the frame. So there's one. Now inked. Here's 2. Always post your barrel. We'll make sure the converter is on tight. I'll just drop her down in there. Make sure it's seated. Give this a little screw to make sure that feels like there's friction there. Flip it upside down and do it again. You can see the ink come in. Then we push the bubble back out. Bring the ink in again. Give her a little tap there. Push the bubble back out. Bring it in again. Now with large volume pens, you've got to be careful, because sometimes ink will actually squirt out of these things when you go to remove them. So that is something to consider when you're inking up a pen. And once again, ill prepared as I typically am. There we go. And there's pen number 2. I guess I could have, through the magic of editing, gone and cleaned my pen, but I'm feeling eager, so I'm not going to do that. And as you can see, this is just the exact same pen. It's just different colors. That's all that's different about it. And I think I'm going to loosen that up a little bit more and get it seated a little bit farther down. I don't push very hard. I just wait until I've got a good, what feels like good friction. And let's ink up the new pen. There we go. You can see the air bubble had come down, and then when I push it back up, it forces the air into the travel filler. There we go. So we're just going to loosen that up. Actually, what I'll do is put the barrel on first. Loosen that up. Loosen up. Don't want to loosen up too much. Just keep on pulling. And there it is. We've got a perfectly filled pen. And I'm going to get this down till it just makes friction and cap it off. And then make sure that's tight. There we go. So that is the Pineider Inkwell, and they work great. Typically I still do the other methods. I just like getting the ink from the bottle. I actually enjoy inking my pens, and so sometimes using that Inkwell, it's nice and quick, but it's not as much fun. So there's one. Let's see if this is clean on the bottom. No, it is not. There's 2. And here's 3. 3. 3 Pilot Falcon pens. And of course I call the extra fine my evil Falcon. Let's get some paper and draw here. Okay, here's the book. This book. This is not the book that I am using currently. That is not the book. It is this book, of course, the one that has the platinum pen in it. Well, here's my platinum pen with the Atramentis ink, and here are my Pilot pens with platinum carbon ink. Yeah, go figure, right? So let's do some drawing. Let's see what we got here. So we've got, this is the extra fine, the Evil Falcon pen. So let's see. We've got the extra fine pen, and we've got, I think let's try the bold pen first here. We'll just do some lines, right? We'll just make some scratchy lines someplace in the paper. And we can see that the lines are uniform and even on the extra fine. Then we take the medium, and we can make our medium lines. And you can immediately see the difference in the line. Let's clean that off. In the line. And now you're going to take our brand new soft bold, and we'll use it. And we can see that, yeah, that's groovy. In fact, I guess we're not going to draw a picture. We might be able to do something here. Let's see if we can make an outline here. We'll come and we'll flex. Yeah, that's pretty groovy. Pretty groovy. I don't usually use these as flex pens. This is the medium. I don't usually use these as flex pens, and the reason why is just because the nibs are a little stiff and they hurt my hand. Like I said, I have issues with my hand, and I have other pens that flex much better than this pen. In fact, here, I can show you. I guess I am not going to be drawing a picture here. Oops, that is the wrong pen. That is a Scribo. Here we go. This is my my pen with a flex nib. This is a true flex nib, and it flexes really nicely. So, as you can see, that's a Kennedy nib from the what is that? Oh gosh, once again, Independence. That's where I got that nib for this pen. This is a Collier pen. The model is a Collier. This is a great pen. I really like writing with this pen. This pen is not hard on my hand because of the narrow section, but as you can see, when I go to write things, it works out really well. You know, it's just a wonderful writing pen. This pen, but that is not what I'm going to do with these. I like the soft nib just because it's easier and it's a little bouncier. And I can, if I want to, if I'm drawing something, if I am drawing like a face, I can take advantage of that line and be able to create the lines with a little more panache. You know, they have a little more going on in them than just your standard lines like I would get with my Rotring isographs. And we are just going to speed this up so it doesn't take forever for this video to play out while I draw. And the isograph pens are excellent pens. I use them a lot. I like them because the line is extremely consistent. You don't really get a lot of line variation. But the Falcon pens, they offer a lot more fun with line variation. Like here I'm writing some musical notes. That's one of the things that I liked to do with a more flexible or a softer nib. Although I never really used these pens for that because the nibs are still just a little too stiff. But I can coax line variation out of them pretty easily. And you can see the difference here between that extra fine and the medium and now the broad. The broad definitely is a smooth writer. Falcon nibs are typically pretty smooth, but they offer just enough feedback that they're satisfying to write with. This is a vellum surface paper, and you can kind of hear the scratchiness of the nib on the paper. But still, they write very smoothly, much more smoothly than the feel of the feedback of the Sailor pens. The Sailor pens definitely have more feedback. But like the Sailors, the Falcon pens tend to be dry writers. They're not a very wet nib, which I like better because it gives me more control of the ink and the line as I'm laying it down. And you can see here I'm gonna make a Victrola. I guess he's listening to some music here while he's robbing the feed bin, and Evil Roy is up to his Evil Roy tactics. But these pens are very light and easy on my hands. They write smoothly and they are very comfortable to use. I really like my Falcon pens. I recommend them very highly. So, a little quick sketch, a little brief chit of the chat about a brand new Falcon pen. And yeah, I'm going to be drawing in public with this at the boutique. It's kind of nice to have a red pen, makes it readily identifiable, and then I can come back in with my other pens and I can do more detail work on the thing here. I guess I could put a little picture with this extra fine nib. I can actually put a picture of Nipper right here. There's old Nipper. The what is it? RCA Victrola dog. There's Nipper right there listening for his master's voice. And okay, not the best picture I've ever drawn, but the Falcon pen. It's a good pen. and they're good writers. They're super reliable, and the Pineider Inkwell, you can see that the ink is already starting to slough to the bottom, and the carbon black ink has microparticles of pigment in them, of carbon, of actual pigments in it, and that's one of the reasons why not a lot of people like using this ink in a pen like this. Like, I would not use it in, where was that pen that I had before? I would not use it in my Scrivo pen, because I can't disassemble this pen. This is a pen that I would send to a pen to a Nibmeister or somebody like that to actually work on it, to remove the feed and clean out the piston. And this is a piston filler pen, so I would not put that kind of ink in this. The only kind of ink that ever goes in this pen is water soluble, that I can clean out myself. These pens, sometimes you got to be a little more aggressive, and again, with these, the advantage to using a piston filler, the advantage of using a piston cartridge conversion is that if this ever fails, I can just go right into using the ink cartridges, and I can take the ink out of that, and I can put any ink I want into it and then stick it back into the pen, and I don't have to worry too much. And the nib and feed are removable from these. It's not that easy, but it can be done, and that way the pens, you're able to clean them and not have too much trouble. Well, I hope you found this interesting, and don't mind a picture of Evil Roy here. And I guess I will see you on the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.